next was Bright, the movie on Netflix with Will Smith. The thing with LA is like once you're on one set, if you're likable and you do a good job, a lot of people get shuffled around. Joel Edgerton, who is the co-star to Will on the movie, needed another assistant. I mean, I'm just sitting there, they're like, what about Kevin? Since Joel has just about every scene with Will, it ends up being me, Joel, Will, and Will's assistant hanging out all the time. 4 months of hanging out with the GOAT.
It starts with just taking that leap.
Man, you have to work hard. You have to be incredibly smart.
Choose something that even if it fails, you are going to be proud of it.
Doesn't matter how badly you got beaten in battle.
Be kind, be kind, be kind.
Become a better person, a better leader, the better business.
Go with your gut. I'm Samuel Donner, and this is Finding Founders.
My name is Fredo Bang. I'm a rapper from... My name is Kevin Axel Langue, and I was born in Paris, France, Neuilly-sur-Seine, to be specific, for those of you who know what that is. And I'm a YouTuber.
What would you define your videos as? Like, how would you describe them to someone who's never seen them before?
I would call it where late night meets Family Feud. It's like a game show, but it's like weekly, same panel-ish. It's just a good time. I feel like when we started, it felt like I was making a show, like the Kevin Langue Show. And now it feels like it's just me and my friends hanging out and we're just playing a game. We shoot all 4 episodes in one day. And we definitely experience joke fatigue sometimes. Like we're running out of things to do. But thankfully, we lean on each other. And since the way we are on the show is the way we are in person. So when we're at my house or at Topgolf or whatever, hanging out, that's how we talk to each other.
And that's something that was really interesting seeing. Like you invited me over to see the show.
Sam pulled up.
Yeah, pulled up. And it was like that immediately. Like you're playing music. Everyone's like, I remember like one of your friends came in and like you're like dancing with each other. You're roasting each other. Like, oh, you're short, you're bald. But also gassing each other up about like the movies that you have coming out, the comedy like shows that you've done. And I think it's like you can see that you're all friends. And I think that kind of community that you see translates on screen.
Thank you for saying that.
And that is 100% not always the case. Like I've met a ton of YouTubers that are like this bombastic personality when you see them online, and then they're like in person, like, hey, how's it going?
Good to meet you.
Yeah. Hi. Nice to meet you.
Which is fine, right? Like you're putting on a show for people.
But it must be exhausting.
I made a secret oath to myself. No matter what, I will always be who I am on camera. Because I don't want to feel like every time I step out the house, I got to put on a mask or I got to put on a character or a persona. That sounds exhausting. I'm just going to be me. And hopefully people like me and love me for who I am and support me.
And there will be people that won't.
There'll be people that won't. And once you accept that and you're okay with it, it makes it easier. One thing I noticed is when I started doing YouTube is there's always a dynamic especially in LA with like, when you're in a YouTube friend group, people have more or less followers than you. And it feels sometimes like there's like a clout.
A hierarchy. And when I was the one on the left side of hierarchy, I wasn't a fan of like, I guess, that hierarchy. I felt like if you're great with cameras and you're the best in the group, you're adding just as much as the guy who has followers. The guy who's hilarious is helping the video grow as much as the guy who has the followers. And so I really try to put an emphasis on clout is just one of the many things you can bring. That's why in my videos, you don't see a lot of big popping people all the time because I think Danny and Herm are so funny. And to me, they bring as much to the show as I bring with the following. Mandy, my camera operator who runs the cameras, Matt, our sound guy, Zayn, my producer, Scott, my casting director, Ty, who runs all the production, like, they're so good at what they do, and they're just as important as someone who comes in and has 10 million followers who is a guest on the show.
Yeah.
Like you're bringing your own.
And I think it's really important to understand and really identify what everyone's good at, because that's how you build the best team. And I think it's a process of understanding what someone's strengths are and then what someone's dreams are. And then if you can understand their strengths, you put them in the right place. If you understand their dreams, you make sure that where they're going is aligned with what they want to actually do.
100%.
And then they don't get burned out.
Because everyone's got their own goals and dreams. Not everybody wants to be a part of the Kevin Langue Show forever.
Yeah.
You know, but like while you're
and not everyone
here,
wants to be in charge either, which is a weird thing to like. I feel like as you're probably someone who enjoys running things.
I do it, but I wouldn't call it a strength of mine. I'm definitely learning to be a leader. You know, I've always just liked making videos.
What's your strength then?
I don't have any. Just a lot of weaknesses. No, I mean, I say I'm good at hosting. I'm good at hosting, being on camera, communicating with people, like putting together a team. But I'm realizing like there's a lot of leadership needed to like oversee different departments and people and stirring the ship. And I get so focused on where we're going. Like I'm so focused on getting 10 million subscribers. Sometimes I'm not paying attention to what's going on around me. Like maybe someone on the team feels a little bit neglected. I'm not even thinking about that because I'm thinking about we got to get to where we're going.
Well, that's like, I feel like that's the difference between CEO kind of long-term vision focus and COO operational.
Exactly, which is why now we're going to have a COO who's going to really look over the operations of everything and make sure everyone's happy.
Can you tell me a little bit about what you remember of France, like growing up there? Do you remember anything?
I remember it all. No, I love, bro. I grew up in an apartment in Neuilly-sur-Seine, le 92, you know. I never thought at that time I would end up here. And then when I was 11, I moved to Zimbabwe.
Did you have any people that you looked up to? Family members? Like what were your parents, your uncles doing?
Well, my mom worked for a big company and my dad worked for the World Bank at the time. Their story is crazy. I don't even know if you want me to dive into that, but their stories are absolutely insane. Like my dad was born in a tiny village in Senegal, herding cattle back and forth, ended up at Johns Hopkins University with like a full ride, a bachelor, 3 masters, and a PhD. My mom wasn't allowed to go to school because in Senegal, women weren't allowed to go to school. They had to go to Muslim school.
Whoa.
Yeah, and my mom on a Monday signed herself up for school and came back, and she came back to ass whooping from her dad, my grandpa, saying like, you can't go to school. Tuesday, she went back to school, came back to another ass whooping. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, till her uncle, my grandpa's brother, told him like, you're just gonna keep beating her every time she comes home. She wants to go to school. And so my grandpa made a deal with her where she had to be at the top of her class every year if she could stay. Because they would put on the wall like the highest grade.
Yeah.
And she was top of her class every single year.
Wow.
She ended up going to college in France. My grandpa paid for it. So that's who raised me. So
and now that you have like your parents built all this up for you, now it's like, okay, what is my like if that's a 0 to 1, let's like what's the next 0 to 1?
Like if my dad was born in Villers-Ruby, which good luck looking that up. I was born in Paris, France, in a very nice neighborhood. Like my kid's got to be born on Mars. Like that's the next evolution, you know. So that always drove me to work hard. But in France, I looked up to my parents. I was big into soccer, but I think I was still kind of finding myself.
You mentioned this educational undertone, but did your family have any creative bent, or was there ever anyone that like encouraged you, like I don't know, like an uncle with imitations?
Absolutely not. My family is probably the most. You're a doctor, engineer family in the world. Yeah, dude, nothing even close. I wanted to be a pilot at first. I didn't have good eyesight. It was back before the days of LASIK and contact lenses. I want to be a cardiac surgeon. Which I kind of am right now. I'd be operating on people's hearts through my videos. But nothing. No one. I took a multimedia class in high school in West Virginia, and I just fell in love with making videos.
I want to go a little bit backwards. We're going to go to the multimedia class in Virginia in a little bit. But I have a question on an uncle who paid you to do imitations?
Oh my God. This feels like these Hot Ones interviews where I'm like, how did you know about that? Yeah, dude, my fucking uncles. When I was a kid, I was always like an entertainer, right? I was always the guy when the family came over, they were like, oh, where's Kevin? Like, I would be like the one. And one of my favorite things to do was I would imitate the weatherman. Like, I would just do the weather in front of a blank TV and make it funny. It was 2004. So 1993. Yeah, 11 years old. I'm visiting my uncle in Columbus, and he's like, oh, we have family over. Do the weather. And I'm like, oh, I'll do it for like $20. Because at that point, I started to realize, like, oh, money is important. So my uncle's like, oh, I bet. I'll give you $20. And I'm like, good. This is my first ever paid stand-up performance. I go up, I do the weatherman, and I do my time. Like, thank you guys for coming out tonight. I appreciate you, whatever. I walk off, and I'm like, yo, do you have the $20? And my uncle goes, I didn't say when I was going to give it to you. I just said I'd give you $20. I was so mad. I did the only thing you could do. I called my mom, and I snitched on him. I said, yo, he's not paying me. He's like, I'm calling my agent. Yo, what's going on with the deal, man? The money comes. And today he paid me. But the reason why I wanted the $20 is because there was a Walkman that I wanted to buy at a Radio Shack. If you're young watching this, you're probably like, what the fuck did he just say? A Walkman was a CD player, right? A portable CD player. So I get my $20. I walk in a Radio Shack. It's $19.99. I grab the Walkman. I get up to the counter, and I'm like, I'm going to take this Walkman. I give it a $20. She goes, that'll be $21.17 or something. And I was like, no, it won't be, because it says $19.99. And she was like, well, there's taxes. And that's the day I learned about taxes. Because in France, the price you see is what it costs. Like, taxes are included in that price. But in America, it's like a surprise. Like, you go to the grocery store, you buy all the groceries,
like,
and it's almost like,
what's the tax gonna be?
All right, and your total is like, what? How are you supposed to fucking know how much you're spending?
You're supposed to add 15% all the time and calculate yourself.
Different. Like, who invented this system?
And the IRS has you guess how much money you owe, and then if you don't get it right, jail.
You're literally like, yo, put it on the. I want to know how much my bananas cost out the door.
So that was your first time being paid to perform.
Yeah.
Wow. So you started early.
I started young, man.
So you go back to France. Do you feel like you fit in school?
No, absolutely not. But here's why. We lived in Neuilly-sur-Seine. It was a pretty white neighborhood. I don't know if we're going to look it up and be like, oh, this man grew up in that fucking Bel Air. But I was the only black kid at my school till the 5th grade.
Wow.
In the 5th grade, this other black kid arrived. He was in the 3rd grade. I'll never forget it. I saw my recess. He gave me the look of like, hey. And I was like, no. I worked too hard to get these white people on my side. I started flipping my hair like them. I was like, I can't.
Had the Bieber cut.
Like, brother, you always got to figure it out. And I'm sorry if you're watching. I'm sorry. I had to do what I had to do. But I was definitely like the one black, athletic, funny, different kid. But I also never cared. I've never been the like, oh man, like, why am I so different? I've always just been like, people have everybody has an issue, a problem. Mine is that I'm different. I'm the only black kid. Someone else maybe is like they have red hair. Maybe someone else's parents is divorced. Like, everyone's got a problem. I never victimized myself, I guess is the right word.
I think you could not be a victim, but also still like recognize a need to change environment. Did you ever have to change schools? Because
I did. Wait, do you know? Are you leading a witness right now? Do you have something? No, I switched schools once in Zimbabwe.
Why did you move to Zimbabwe from Paris? That seems like a wild switch.
It definitely was. My dad had gotten a job, a big job, moving out of DC into Zimbabwe because my mom was in Paris with me, and my dad was working in DC, so they were long distance. You know, I'm born.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah, then my brother's born. Then my sister's born, and my mom was probably like, "Hey, we got to come back together."
Yeah.
The plan was we're all gonna move to Zimbabwe and like be a family all together down there. And I got there and I was like, "Oh, this is where the black people was at. What the fuck? I didn't even know. I've been looking for y'all, you know." And I was I don't know if I was happy or I was just like, this is cool.
Yeah.
Like we all look the same. Pause. But I went to a French school and then I switched to an English school. Reason why I switched was I was bullied so bad at my French school.
Why?
I was the guy that every girl went to and was like, why can't guys be more like you, Kevin? You know, and like I was just friend zoned by all the girls, and I'd be like, bitch, I'm like me, date me. You know, I was so nice, always a yes man, and I think people just kind of took advantage of that. You know, like messing with me, bullying me, fucking stealing. One day, some of the kids stole like a walkie-talkie or a Walkman or something out of someone else's bag and put it in my bag, and then I was framed as the person who stole it. It was like a whole thing, and they bullied me so bad that I had to switch schools. But here's the thing, and this is my big everything happens for a reason. I'm thankful for those bullies, dude, because of that, I had to switch to another school. There were no other French schools in Harare, Zimbabwe. So I had to switch to an American school, HIS, Harare National School. By making that switch, I had to learn English.
And you had not learned English.
I didn't speak English. I was from France.
Yeah.
So then I learned English. I switched to an English school. I fall in love with like American culture. And that's when I was like, dude, I want to move to America someday. This is awesome. So if I hadn't gotten bullied, I don't switch to an English school. I don't fall in love with American culture. I probably don't move to America. I'm probably not sitting here talking to you.
I also think like if you're bullied as a kid, you know what it feels like to be an outsider. And I think it actually really like you develop a stronger like sixth sense of trying to be inclusive.
Yeah.
And I think that's something I've noticed about you and like a lot of people that have been bullied. It's just like they're inclusive.
Because when I walk into rooms, my first thought is always like, how can I make everyone feel included?
Yeah.
And like, I don't want anyone to feel left out.
Yeah. And I think that's also that paired with like an entertainer personality. I think like those like really mix well together.
Because I had to be funny to survive, bro. Like I was getting pushed around and like I knew that like when I was making people laugh, they would like me. And I was seeking approval so much as a kid that I was like, oh, when I make a joke, people smile and laugh. So I need to keep making jokes.
Yeah, it makes me safe. Yeah. But you would have a move again. Where did you move after that?
To West Virginia.
Before you hear about West Virginia, what was the built-up vision of what America looks like and also who you would be in that America?
Wow. I am 14 years old, 14, 15, on the varsity basketball team. I hit a buzzer beater to beat our rival team and crowning me the nickname Sugar K because the shot was so sweet. And I decided right there and then I was going to go to the NBA. My route to the NBA was I need to go to high school in America, get scouted by Duke, go play at Duke, go to the NBA. And I knew my father was not going to let me just move to America by myself. My mother had her brother, my uncle in Columbus, who paid me the $20 late. Lived in Columbus, Ohio. I was going to private school at the time. And so I looked at private schools around Columbus, Ohio, because part of my pitch to my dad was my uncle is nearby.
He's already there.
So I spent 2 months applying to private schools around Columbus, doing interviews on over the internet. I go to my dad one day at dinner, and I put on one of his suits, and I had one of his briefcases. Keep in mind, my dad is 6'6".
Yeah.
I'm 6'1". So just picture me in that suit. I come to dinner. After dinner, I have my briefcase, and my dad is, he's old school but new school, where he understands forward thinking, but he's like, you gotta prove yourself. So I open the briefcase. I put all the documents on the table. I'm like, here's the schools I've been applying to. Here's the ones I got into. Here's why I want to do this. Here's the cost. Here's the difference of what you're paying now versus what you'll be paying then. Here's how I'm going to pay you back with my NBA contract over time. The whole plan. My dad looked at me and he was like, is that what you want to do? And I was like, that's what I want to do. He's like, okay. I was like, wait, what?
Why do you think he was okay with that?
I think he saw in me that like if I was willing to do all of this at 14 to make it work, then I'd probably do whatever it takes to go out there and make something out of it. And my dad is the guy who like, he was always gone against the thing that made the most sense. In hindsight now, my mom always says she regrets the decision. She regrets it mainly because she feels like what my life has become is great, but she thinks I've become too American. She thinks those last few years of being at home cost me. I wasn't as grounded into my culture as she would like me to be. That is the one thing I think my mom regrets.
You agree?
For sure. I think now people, ask me where you're from, and it's a heavy question for me. I don't have a lot of memories from Paris. Zimbabwe isn't really a place I consider like my home. And Senegal, where my parents are from, and that's their home. My siblings grew up there. I never even lived there. So it's like, he has a French passport, but he doesn't even go to France that much anymore. I'm American now, but like I just moved to America when I was 15 to West Virginia. I live in LA. I'm almost like a child of the world. I don't have like a home. But yeah, he let me go. I was 15 years old, and I went to America, and everybody here was 6'8", drinking Gatorade. I was like, what the fuck? I was 6'1", skinny, eating baguettes. I'm like, I'm never going to make it to the league.
Were you confronted with the reality of how hard it was?
Very fast.
Very fast?
Very fast. I was confronted with, this is not going to work. My plan is not going to work. I wasn't even a starter on the basketball team. But the one thing I had overlooked was my soccer talent. Because I grew up in France where soccer is so big, and it's very a lot about your skills, footwork, like smart. And then African soccer is more about toughness, speed. And so when I got to America, I had a mix of both. So within weeks, I became one of the top soccer players at my high school, if not in the state.
Wow.
So then I leaned into that, and then I started making videos, and then that's when everything kind of changed. But
so it seems like the avenue to make videos was through sports. Like, how did you start to, I guess, develop an understanding of what like sports video even looked like?
I was a ESPN fan. I loved ESPN. I was like, wait, this channel has sports all the time? And I'm sitting there watching as my NBA dreams are dwindling away. And I'm like, this is what I want to do. I want to make those videos. I want to edit those. And I was taking a multimedia class, which I was talking about, learning how to edit. And so I hit up our athletic director, and I was like, hey, for the sports ceremonies in the winter and in the fall when we hand out the awards, can we play a video on the screen showing the season's highlights? And he's like, sure, but who's going to make that video? And I was like,
me.
Glad you asked. I would go to every department and grab the games from like the football team, the hockey team, the basketball team, and I'd put together like a highlight reel of the best moments from that season. And that was fun, but it just wasn't like, it didn't connect with me, the funny, lighthearted guy. So then I started making skits with I lived in a dorm, right?
Yeah. You lived in a dorm in high school, which is not like a lot of, not a lot of, at least in a like American high school, it's like there's not a lot of boarding that goes on.
Yeah, we come out of school, we go to practice, we come back, and we're just in this big house. And I'm like, we got to start filming this shit, So I started making skits and videos with all my friends and music videos. I had a D or a C in chemistry, AP chemistry. My teacher was like, hey, I like the videos you make. If you make a video about chemistry, I'll give you extra credit. So I was like, okay. So I started making this skit with my roommate about our book. And it would be like me playing the piano, this beautiful music, and it would pan over to the notes, and it was a chemistry book. Or it would be me in the shower, and my roommate comes in like, yo, Kev, like, pass the soap, whatever. And I'd be like, 1 second, I would open up the shower, and I have my chemistry book in the shower reading as I hand him the soap or something. And so I got extra credit for making those videos. And then my calculus teacher was like, if you make one with our book, I'll give you extra. So then I ended up doing 4 classes and getting extra credit everywhere, and I got my grades up.
It's so funny.
And that's how I fell in love with making like skits and videos. I love teachers who understand there's ways of teaching outside of the rules. That's the whole point, right, of school is like, this is the
exploration.
Way. Yes, in this box is how things tend to work for most people, but don't get stuck in that box. You can do whatever you want. As long as you understand the premise, that's all that matters.
So when you were looking towards colleges, what were you looking at? Still NBA? Still Duke?
No, I had soccer scholarship offers, so that kind of played a role into it. By the time I was a senior, I was an A and B student. I just locked in, and all my friends were going to WVU, West Virginia University. So that's where I went. I went to WVU, and it was life-changing. It was arguably some of the greatest years of my life. I mean, I met I didn't meet, but like, my core best friends that I more or less grew up with, because I don't have that, grew up with, is from that era. We lived in first I was in a dorm, then the next 3 years I was at this house. I have a script, a pilot about that, our time period. Yeah. And one day maybe I'll get to make that show, but it was the first time where I really had no one looking over me, right? And even in high school in a dorm, you have people like chaperones and stuff. But in college, it was just me, my uncle who's 2.5 hours away driving, my parents who were 10 hours away flying. It was me and all these new friends, And I was a biology major, pre-med for the first year.
Because you wanted to be the surgeon?
Cardiac surgeon, yeah. And in the fall, I went to my
academic counselor.
Yes, academic counselor. And I was like, yo, can you map me like how long it takes for me to get to here to being a cardiac surgeon? And he busted out this 15 or 20-year plan. And I was like, bitch, I ain't got time for all that. Where's the business college? Can you take me to business college? And I switched to a marketing degree. I got so ahead that by my senior year, me and my roommates, who are all doctors, all worked hard enough where we didn't have classes on Fridays. So senior year, Thursday nights, Friday nights, Saturday nights, and Sunday daytime, I probably lost 2 to 3 years off the back of my life.
Lots of partying.
2 to 3 years off the back of my life. Minimum.
Yeah. But in the midst of that, were you still making videos?
Yes. Sophomore year or junior year, Vine came out. And bro, Vine came out, and that was back in the days where if you got 1 million views on a video, you got like 500,000 followers.
Yeah.
It wasn't like today. And there was this girl who was going viral. Her name was Maddie something. And it was off this, the sound was, don't drop that dun dun hey, don't drop that dun. It was all these girls like twerking to it, and it was blowing up. And me and my friend Derek, we were just like, we got fat asses and we can twerk. So we did a video to it. We tagged the Maddie girl saying like homage to Maddie or whatever. We twerk in our underwear.
Yeah.
And blew up. I think she might have reposted it. It got like hundreds of thousands of views. We had like 30 or 40,000 followers, which
that's
in West
crazy.
Virginia at the time, I was the shit. I remember I took this girl on a date at the movie theater, and the guy behind the counter recognized me and gave us the tickets for free. That was one of my.
What did he say?
He goes, "Oh, you're the guy who does those vines." I was like, "Come on." Like that. He's like, "No, you guys are good. Just go." And it was such a flex.
Were you like, "Oh, this is something that there's longevity to"? Was this?
I was just having fun.
Yeah.
I just loved making those. I never thought like, let's have a business meeting.
Yeah.
No, I just said like, yo, I got an idea. Let's film it. Then I started filming YouTube videos, and it was kind of like our life in college.
Huh.
And I was having so much fun, but my roommates who were applying to med school towards this time and doing things like that, they were worried about, I don't want to be in a video twerking in my underwear when, Carnegie Mellon is going over my application, which I understand. But this competition called Campus Movie Fest came to WVU, and that changed my life. They came and they did this thing where you made a 5-minute short film, and the best films got to go to Hollywood and compete for $10,000.
Whoa.
And the top 5 movies got into the Cannes Film Festival.
Whoa.
Biggest festival in the world. My junior year, I was handed a flyer for it. I looked at it. and I was making YouTube videos, and I was like, I don't know how to make a movie. Like, what am I going to do? Make a movie about me trying to make a movie? And that's exactly what the fuck I did. I made a 5-minute movie about me and my college friends trying to make a 5-minute movie to win a competition about a 5-minute movie. And we won. Well, we didn't win. My junior year, we got top 5, and we got in the cans. So I find myself walking I can send you a clip. I find myself walking the red carpet at the Cannes Film Festival, where I meet so many fucking people my junior year, and I was like, this is what I want to do.
So that was the moment where you're like, this has longevity.
This is when I realized, because I saw that me making this 5-minute short film with my friends and a phone got me here with Ryan Gosling. Like, if I actually put time, effort, money into something bigger, where is that going to take me? I had this moment of like, I wanted to be an actor for a while, and I was like, I don't want to be stuck in a box. I wanted to always try new things. I feel like when you're young, you have to try everything. So I wanted to do something different. And granted, it was dangerous to say, like, let me switch to a drama my senior year. But, you know, if I'm bent on myself, I'm doubling down every time. I took my share of the 10 grand. I used it to move to LA.
What did you find in LA? Like, did you have a job lined up? Were you like,
no,
or was it just like, here I am, universe, come give me some entertainment money?
I came to LA for the festival when we won the 10 grand. I met this guy who was also moving to LA, wanted to move to LA, lived in Minnesota. And I was like, you want to be roommates? He was like, sure. We both moved to LA. My parents were supporting me the first year. Once I got my work visa, I got a job as an assistant on... I was Daniel Sunjata's assistant, who's an actor, and I love that man. And he paid me like $600 a week to be his assistant, and that felt like $10 million to me. And I got to work on set with him.
Wow.
On like a network ABC show.
Did your aspirations change as you peeked beneath the cover of like what it actually was?
To be honest, it got me more excited. I love the fact that there were so many people who were all in it together to make a project happen. At first I was like, this is so cool. Whether it's the lighting department or the writers or the actors, everyone is playing a little role to make this big thing happen. And I fucking loved it. But in my current state at the time, I'm a big believer in like doing your time. Like, I'm a big believer in like, everything is earned, not given, right? So at the time, I was like, I want to be an assistant for as long as I can in every department. On set, in the writer's department, to a producer. I want to learn. I want to be a sponge so that when I'm ready, I can do it all, you know? Yeah. So that's why I went from the TV show to next was Bright, the movie on Netflix with Will Smith.
How did you land that?
Dude, the thing with LA is like once you're on one set, if you're likable and you do a good job, a lot of people get shuffled around. Like we got a guy that came on as a PA for the day. Our show was getting canceled, and he was like, "Hey, we're looking for a PA to help with food on our movie Bright." So I'm like, "Sure, I'm free. It's canceled." And I know how he's like, "I know how hard you work." So I go over there for one day. I help with like food as a PA on this big set. I don't meet nobody. A few days later, they're like, "Hey, we loved you a few days ago. You have such good energy. Do you want to come back and help with food again?" Absolutely. You know, all hands on deck. I show up, same thing. Third time again, can you come back and help us out? Absolutely. I show up, and then I get caught in this conversation about how Joel Edgerton, who is the co-star to Will on the movie, needed another assistant. He was in makeup the whole movie. He had his assistant, but he needed someone else to be with him on set at all times just to help him out, because he's in this orc, if you see the movie, you know, and his personal assistant sometime is running back to his house to get something come back. And I'm just sitting there. They're like, "What about Kevin?" And I'm like, sure. I mean, if I'm sure, they're like, "Yeah, why don't you just come full time?" Next thing you know, I'm working full time as Joel Edgerton's on-set assistant.
Wow.
Since Joel has just about every scene with Will, it ends up being me, Joel, Will, and Will's assistant hanging out all the time.
Was that crazy to be in that room?
I can't even. 4 months of hanging out with the GOAT. Like, when I tell you, anybody who's like, man, Will Smith is amazing, he's better in person, dude. He was, the lessons I took from how he treats everyone to just his humor. But the most important thing, and this is kind of personal, he reminded me so much of myself.
Huh.
Like, he's this loud storyteller, hard worker who makes everyone feel comfortable. And we spoke a lot, and I never really told him this, but he almost like made it okay. He made me feel like I could do this because I just saw so much of myself in him that I was like, okay, this guy is just like me, and he got to this point. Surely I can maybe get to that point. And I just spent those 4 months studying, learning, asking questions, and thankfully I had Joel and Will, who were just such good teachers who were open.
Were there any conversations you had where like, oh, like that's completely changed my perspective? I feel like the whole experience was like, I can do this.
Yeah.
But were there moments where it was microcosms of, oh, like I can act in this way and it'll be received somehow? Or
the main lesson I learned was always like, he was kind to everyone. He was always making sure everyone was happy, but also he's so good. Like, he would be talking to us, finish up a story about something that happened in Philadelphia when he was young, and then you would hear the director, David Ayer, go, background action, and he'd be like, all right, 1 sec, and he would turn and he would like become an action star. It was like in a moment. He would do the scene, whether he'd be crying or acting or a badass. You hear a cut, and he would switch right back to the Fresh Prince and go back to telling stories. And I always thought to myself, man, that is the level of sharpness I want to get to. He always was so good at that stuff.
How do you think you become sharp?
He like would learn, so study the whole script, knew everybody's lines, not even the ones that weren't his, you know? So it's that level of meticulous, detail-oriented type of person. If you're like that, then, you know, if you stay ready, you ain't ever got to get, you don't ever have to get ready.
Yeah.
You know?
Do you feel like you have that meticulousness in you?
Yes. I don't know about that level.
Yeah.
But I've always been extremely detail-oriented. And that's from my uncle. My uncle in Columbus, he's very like, quick story, when he taught me how to drive, we would be on the highway and the speed limit was 65. And my uncle's like, it's 65, not 66, not 64. You keep it at 65. I'm 15 being like, motherfucker, who cares? But that's the level of detail he was. And I always thought to myself, this man is crazy. He's a psychopath. He's doing too much. And now when my editor sends me a video and I'm like, cut out this 0.1 second so the sentence flows faster and that joke hits at this point, not this point. And instead of cutting a close-up on me, use this shot and cut to the close-up half a second sooner so the joke hits harder. My editor's probably sitting at home being like, this guy's a psychopath. These
details don't matter.
Exactly. So all those little things that I got from my uncle, I'm so happy now because I'm like, man, I'm so detail-oriented because of that.
And I feel like the people that become the superstars, the people that, the Steve Jobs of the world, are able to go from micro to macro seamlessly.
Because when you're able to zoom out, like even for my channel today, I don't think to myself, what's going to give me the most views on Saturday? I'm thinking about a 10-year plan. So it's easier to make decisions. And once I have that 10-year plan, then I can go into the details of today with less of a abrasive decision-making kind of style.
And I want to talk about that 10-year plan in a little bit. But I want to talk about a weird transition that I feel like a lot of people won't understand.
Let's get it.
Because you are working on these shows. You're working like you go from Bright, which was on Netflix, then you go to be an assistant writer on 13 Reasons
Yes,
Why?
writer's PA on 13 Reasons Why.
I'm looking at your life up until this point, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, climb the ranks, getting closer and closer with star talent.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like the traditional path, right? That people, there's like, hey, you want to make it in show business? You are a PA and then someone's assistant. And you're climbing the rungs, the ladder. You're understanding how the whole ecosystem works.
Yeah.
And then you're like, nah, like you leave that. When it seems like you have momentum, what was that? What was the buildup in leaving like Netflix and Sony?
You know, when I left Netflix, that 13 Reasons Why, I went to work at SoulCycle in the morning and Tao, the restaurant in the evening.
Which is what people do when they are writing a screenplay. It's like, oh, I'm writing a screenplay.
Yes.
And like don't have anything else going on.
Right.
You
it
know?
was definitely like a lot of doubts, questions, like my parents, friends being like, why are you leaving this career on Netflix to go? It almost felt like a step backwards. But
yeah,
when I was at Netflix and all these companies, I noticed two things. One, Will and all those other celebrities, they were still fighting for something. The best example I had was Selena Gomez was a producer on 13 Reasons Why. And I think it was at a time in her career where she wanted to be taken more seriously as an actress. She wanted to like do less maybe Disney stuff and more like serious roles. And I'm watching how she operates with her team, and I'm like, wow, even she's still trying to chase something and putting the pieces around. And it made me realize, man, first, no matter how big I get, I'm always gonna wanna like chase the next thing. And so if I want to do this, I got to be in love with the process. And then the second thing I noticed was how many goddamn people it took to go from the writers have an idea to it being on screen. I mean, it's going by executive producers who have to approve it. Then the casting director has to cast it. Then the producer has to say his hair's too long, his hair's too short. Then he goes back to casting. Then he goes back to the producer. Then he goes to Paramount, who's producing the show, the execs, and they're like, we don't like this idea. Back to the writer's room. You finally make it back to Paramount. Then he gets to Netflix, is distributing it. We don't like this guy. He's too tall. We go. It took so long.
Extremely bloated.
It's so many people, and I'm like, if I have an idea, it's gonna take so long to get out. But at lunch every day, when I was at 13 Reasons Why, I watch YouTube videos.
Who were you watching?
I was watching. Don't roast me. I was watching Logan Paul's vlog. And I love the fact that he would film the day before. It would come out the next day. I'm like, dude, this is awesome. And so I decided to just take matters into my own hands and be like, I'm just going to make YouTube videos. I don't have to cut through nobody. If I have an idea, I can come up with it on Monday. It's out on Saturday. So I left to go make YouTube videos. SoulCycle in the morning, film in the afternoon, bus tables in the evening.
Was that scary at all?
I've always had this deep feeling in me that things are going to work out for me. And I just have to just go with the motion of the boat, essentially, and trust in the universe. So I don't really get scared. I just, whatever makes the most sense in that moment, I just trust that it'll work.
Why did it make sense at that moment?
I was watching YouTube videos every day, and I just wasn't. Also, to be fair, 13 Reasons Why, as much as I love the show, it was a lot of heavy conversations, and I knew I couldn't do. I'm such a lighthearted guy. Like, they would make a comment about assault, and my reaction to that is to laugh or smile. Like, I don't know how to, you know what I'm saying? Like,
You weren't built for that set.
I'm not built for that. People say, oh, like, you know, I got fired at work, and I'm like, shit happens. You know, like, I'm not the guy to go to for anything serious.
Yeah.
So I knew I couldn't do that forever, and I knew there was a future in YouTube, and I'm the guy who left at 14 to go to fucking America. So leaving Netflix to go make videos, it felt like the easiest transition.
So what videos did you start making?
I started making vlogs.
Just like Logan Paul, that's going to be me.
And that didn't do well at all. But
Why
I was
not?
making enough. everybody was trying to make vlogs at the time, right?
Yeah.
It was like the thing. And slowly I realized, why do people watch vlogs? Well, I watch Logan because everything he does is crazy. I can't do crazy stuff. I'm broke, right? So no one's going to watch his vlogs.
Yeah.
Then it became, okay, well, you got to give people a reason to watch you. And then that's when my brain starts churning and I've slowly become a YouTuber. But at the time, I was making enough money at SoulCycle and at Tao. Then I became a...
And Tao's the restaurant.
Tao's the restaurant. Then I started to like working at Tao. I became a waiter. I went from busser to waiter. I skipped being a runner.
It's crazy to go from like working on these film sets to like, all right, busboy.
Yeah.
But it's because it allows for the dream. And I think like a lot of people are like, you have to be making more and more money at every moment. But I think the people undervalue more and more freedom. And I think that's what you're looking for.
Thank God I've never been like a money chasing kind of guy, because waiters at Tao make good money. I mean, on any given night, you can make $1,000 or $2,000. You can make, yes, because at Tao, like celebrities are coming in, big tables. Yeah, dude. Jay-Z, Beyonce, people come in, they spend 50 grand on like the post Grammy dinner, 50 grand. I mean, you do the math on 20%. Yeah, dude, you can make bank working at these restaurants. When I became a waiter, I left SoulCycle because I was making good money. I started making great money as a waiter.
How much do you? So are you were literally pulling 1 to 2K
on big nights?
Still,
I was probably
that's
making
crazy.
like 4 or 5K a month. Now, one of my waiter friends, I'll never forget this. He pulled me aside one day. He said, "Kevin, don't get stuck in the golden handcuffs." And I'm like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" And he's like, "It's this idea that you're in these handcuffs and they're golden. And you're like, whoa, these are so shiny. They're so nice, but you don't realize you're handcuffed."
Yeah.
What he was trying to tell me is that if I get caught in this waiter lifestyle, start making 4, 5, 6K a month, you get stuck. You end up stuck. You don't chase you came here to go be a YouTuber. Like, don't forget that. And it was like a brick. So I started to take on less shifts. I started to work Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Friday, Saturday, Sunday were the big days. You made big money. I worked Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. I had one big day. Then I worked Mondays and Tuesdays, kind of slower days. The idea was I would make about $800 a week, just enough to pay my bills, but not enough for anything else. But then he gave me the rest of the week to do whatever. So I would spend the rest of the week figuring out YouTube, trying to get brand deals. And eventually I started to make as much money doing YouTube than I was doing waiting tables.
How? What kind of videos were you making? Because you started off making vlogs and you said they wouldn't
videos. I had a friend, his name was Ben, one of my best friends, and he ran a channel called Base Zeus. And he had 1 million subscribers and he did a lot of brand deals. And he told me,
what kind of videos was he doing?
It was men's lifestyle, like men's grooming, dating advice, stuff like that. And he's like, you got 80,000 followers on IG at the time, maybe like 20,000 subscribers, nothing crazy. Mainly on Instagram, I had like 80,000 followers that had trickled from like the Vine days to funny skits to all that. He's like, you should just do brand deals. And I was like, well, I don't know how that works. And he taught me how to get brand deals. I'm a gatekeep most of the information, but what I ended up doing was I would spend Monday through Sunday making a list of 100 brands. I did this from December 2018 till June 2019. I would look around the room everywhere I was and be like, okay, story time. Write it down. Dell. Write it down. Sony. Write it down. YouTube. Shit. Write it down. Home Depot. Write it down. On Sunday, I would spend all day scraping emails. I would go on hunter.io or other sites.
Yep, dude.
And scrape emails from those companies. I would find an email of like the marketing director or customer service, anyone I could think of. And even if I couldn't get the email, I would notice a pattern. First.lastname@nike.com. Go on LinkedIn, find the guy in charge of marketing or the budget or influence marketing. Assume the email is probably his first.lastname@nike.com. Monday, I would send out 100 emails to all those brands every Monday for 7 months. I'd hear back from maybe 15 or 20. Out of the 20, maybe 5 would throw me like free product or something, or maybe in the future, and 1 or 2 would pay me something, and I would just save that money. And I did that from December 2018 till June 2019, and I'd saved up $15,000.
Wow.
Which at the time was the equivalent to about 6 months expenses for me. I called my dad and I was like, what do you think I should do? And he's like, do you want to be a waiter or do you want to be a YouTuber? And I was like, I want to be a cardiac surgeon. No, I was like, well, I want to be a YouTuber. He's like, well, what do you always say? And I'm like, if I'm betting on myself, I'm doubling down. He's like, well, then double down. On my birthday, June 23rd, 2019, I walked into Tao and I handed in my 2 weeks notice.
Wow.
And I left. And I never looked back.
So you were now completely on your own.
Yep.
All income, basically, brand deals.
It was scary.
What videos were you making that brands were? Because I mean, like,
it was mainly IG.
IG. So IG, like the 80K was enough to get enough brand deals to do something.
It'd be like $500 for like a brand deal here, like $800 for IG post and story. And I would package my stuff a lot. Hey, I'll do 3 posts over the next 3 months. Instead of paying me $500 for each post, throw me $1,000 and I'll do 3. You know, I would package all my stuff. I would market myself, sell myself. Thank God for that marketing degree. And I was able to bundle stuff up so I was making just enough money to get by. And that's around the time I became friends with Sam and Colby.
And I just want to also point out something here too, is there's like golden handcuffs always on your way to like full authentic expression, right? Like I think like there's golden handcuffs of Taos, and then you go, and then there's the golden handcuffs of Instagram and like deals.
100%.
Right. And so it's like, what do you do next? What do you do to transition towards the thing that's actually, oh wait, this is actually more Kevin.
And you're totally right. And what I would do is I would write this quote on my board in my room that would say, will this get me 1 million subscribers? And I ran all my stuff through that question. Every time I wanted to do something, I'd be like, will this get me closer to 1 million subscribers? And if the answer was
and that
no,
was the goal, 1 million subscribers.
That was the goal. And it was like, if it doesn't get me closer to that, then I'm not doing it, right? Of course, there's the other questions like, I got to pay rent, I got to do this. So there's like, of course, there's like, okay, well, I got to, once my bills are paid, what am I doing now to answer that question? So I was always making videos, collaborating with other creators. I met like Sam and Colby around that time.
And who are Sam and Colby?
Sam and Colby are big YouTubers. They have like now, I think 12 million subscribers. But they were my first ever like YouTube friends. So we had like a YouTube group.
Yeah. And they've been around forever. They were in the Vine days. Like they've been collaborating. They did videos in freaking Walmart when they were like 15, 16, and now they've transitioned. They've made every transition really well.
And they've been such good friends and people that like I looked up to for the longest time. And they more or less, I would say, put me on when I first started. And, you know, although now we all do different things, I try to always be respectful of like the people who like played a big part in your life. And they did play a big part.
What do they do?
Well, they put me in their videos.
How? Like, how did you even get in contact with them?
My friend Arya, my best friend Arya, used to be friends with them. He lived in the same building as them. And then once me and Arya moved in together, they started coming over to hang out with Arya.
Was this like YouTube people or just people?
No, like he was a musician. In our house, we had 3 musicians, and then me and Arya, who were YouTubers. So we're just like influencers, just trying to come together and save money on rent. And then through that, we met other creators, and then it took off.
Yeah.
But I do have to say, the first person that ever put me on was David Dobrik.
What?
Yes, I've been meaning to talk to David about this. When I first moved to LA and I was just starting to do YouTube, I went to this party and David shows up and we're outside and we couldn't get in. And I jumped the gate to open the door. He's vlogging it. It ends up in the vlog. But that night I talked to him and I'm like, yeah, I want to do YouTube. He's like, oh, like, what do you do? I'm like, I don't know. I'm trying to do these vlogs. I have like 1,000 subscribers. I was small. He's like, what's the channel? And I was like, oh, it's just my name, Kevin Langue. He's like, oh, cool, I'll check it out. Obviously, in my mind, I'm like, he's not fucking remembering that, let alone checking it out, right? The vlog comes out like 2 weeks later, and the top link is my channel. And I grew like 4,000 or 5,000 subscribers.
David Dobrik at that time was huge.
I know, and he put me in the link, not even the the link.
Wow.
From that day, like, he's always been someone I admire and like look up to, because that was so selfless. The fact that he remembered, he put it in there, like some random guy had no loyalty to me.
Yeah.
You know, that meant a lot to me. So then that was the first one. Then Sam and Colby, we had a big friend group, and that was amazing. We all grew so much. That's the summer.
What do they do for you?
Well, they would put me in their videos. They'd be in my videos. We had a friend group, kind of. It's like they had a house called the Trap House. It was Sam, Colby, Jake, Corey, and then there was like the people who came to hang out, like me, Reggie, Cassie, Zephyr, like a bunch of us. And we all filmed and hung out together all the time, and we all kind of grew from within this fandom. Everything goes well. 2020 starts, and then the pandemic hits, and our whole thing is based on hanging out and making videos together, and that's now dead. So it was a big awakening call for me, because I think it was my first lesson in not relying on other people. And my views were kind of based on having other YouTubers in them, like having the big guys in there. Without the big guys, the views don't sustain me. But 2020, through Sam and Colby, after all these years, I'm meeting all these other creators. And one of them was Keenan and JC, this other duo. And me and JC formed a friendship. And so through the pandemic, and I'm closer in age with JC than I was with Sam and Colby. So I think we had more in common. And JC was streaming at the time on Twitch, playing video games. We're all at home during this pandemic, also playing video games with him, like Among Us. And it just kind of became this, yo, why don't you guys just like buy a camera and mic and just start streaming? We're already sitting at this desk for hours.
Might as well capture it.
So we all get cameras and mics, and we just start all streaming. So you'd go on Twitch, it'd be 15 motherfuckers streaming, you know, like the same game, screaming at each other, because we're used to playing without the camera. We're cussing each other out, getting competitive. And the Keenan and JC fan base, I think, mixing with some of the Sam and Colby fan base, mixing with new people, we kind of created this new fan base with us streaming.
And are you making money from streaming?
Yes. And I paid my taxes on everything. Yeah, that's when I started to make good money. I went from making like $35K a year to making like 6 figures off streaming.
Wow. How are you making the money?
Through subscribers, donations, bits. My YouTube channel's picking up a little bit, couple brand deals. It all kind of added up. But I want to be transparent. I don't think I've ever said this, but even till this day, I never touched my streaming money.
What do you mean?
I never spent it.
Like you just kept it?
Yeah. I just felt like we blew up so fast. And I went from making $35K a year to making, you know, these 6 figures. And I kept thinking, like, if it came this fast, it may go just as fast. So I never touched it. I just kept living off my $35K from brand deals, YouTube. I would take some of the streaming money if needed.
Why not switch to streaming if the revenue was so good?
I had that thought, but at first I was like, oh, I'll just keep streaming and doing this. But 6-7 months in, I realized I was streaming to the same 100 to 200 people every night. Like, there wasn't a lot of new people coming in. And I just kept thinking, like, man, I'd be damned if I let my livelihood be in the hands of like 200 people, let alone my top 25 gifters, let alone my top 5 gifters.
Is crazy.
Like
200 people can basically give you a 6-figure income.
Don't forget, Twitch takes half.
Yeah.
Dude, there was months where I remember I reached my highest. My highest, I had 11,000 subscribers. You know, and it's $5 a month to be a subscriber. You can do the math on that. But it was insane. I couldn't believe that, because most people with 11,000 subscribers, they probably have thousands of viewers. I had 150, 100 on average. So I always felt like I really wanted to give my fans like the best possible entertainment and everything. And my fans were always supporting of me. But I also didn't want to burden them with supporting me. Like, I'm not going to let 10 people pay my rent. I don't know. It just felt so like dangerous. Another reason why I saved everything. Like, I wanted to build a brand that was synonymous with good. So that if I was to work with Disney or Coca-Cola or a big brand someday that just invested in me, then I have something to show for. And streaming is huge, especially now. But I also didn't want to spend my days
in front of a
computer for hours. You know, I wanted to be able to separate the two. So
what do you just cold turkey stop?
Yeah, I went.
You cold turkey stop
at the peak, not at the peak, but like things that were going up and up and up as the pandemic kind of ended. 2022 ish, it started to slow down a little bit. One day I put out a tweet saying like, I'm out. You know, I'm no more streams coming from me. And that's when I met OneFluent. OneFluent was the studio that my friend Crawford introduced me to. It's this company that had a studio in Hollywood, and they wanted to bring in creators, kind of like, almost like an incubator, and film content. And I was thinking like, the CamBoys should have a YouTube channel. I'll fucking help run it. People will show up, be funny, and I'm just gonna build my channel. Keep in mind, my channel was making $1,000 a month at the time, and I left streaming for that. So that was definitely not that was another Netflix like, what the fuck are you doing? Thing.
So what was it like building that channel and collaborating with this company? Because I'm assuming they're taking a percentage or something.
Yeah, I mean, there's like the side of the ins and outs of the business and percentages, which like I didn't get too involved in. I was more focused on the creative. I wanted to become a YouTuber, and I approached it like I approach everything else. But as I quickly learned, like getting 13 guys or 15 guys to like all be on the same page did prove to be difficult. I approached this transition into YouTube like I do everything else, which is be a student, listen, learn, give it 150%, right? I remember there was a time when I would be in Zoom calls with a bunch of other YouTubers exchanging ideas. Mr. Beast came into one of those Zoom calls one day.
No way.
Yeah.
Which is how you know you're doing well on YouTube.
Yeah. And I was just studying the internet, bro. Studying YouTube, different groups, individuals, like how YouTube works. And I started to learn about what kind of YouTuber I want to be. This is when I realized, like, wait, I can't keep. Oh, fuck, I'm missing a. There's a part before this. So before I start working in OneFluent, I'm still kind of streaming ish, but I'm coming towards the end of streaming. I tore my Achilles playing soccer. This is arguably the lowest point of my life. I can't walk. I'm like getting emotional talking about it. I can't walk. My best friend was getting married. I missed like his bachelor party. In that moment, not a lot of people reached out to me. It helped me. You know what it was? For the longest, I associated my social media life with my real life. Because when you're making vlogs and videos and all your friends are in it, you feel like these are my best friends. Like, this is the thing. But then you also have a life outside of social media. And I think I blended the two a little too much. So when shit hit the fan in my personal life, I guess I don't know why I expected all my friends to just show up for me, but it kind of was just me by myself. And I never talk about this stuff because like I never want to paint
anyone in a bad light
because I'm not here to do that, right? If anything, it was another big lesson for me of like, you got to be able to stand on your own.
I think that takeaway is an important takeaway to build.
I started to look at what is the friendship based on, right? Like when I was in college, all my friends, our friendships are based in like we like the same shit. So we just become friends. We do the same things. Those friendships can last forever because you're not changing. Friendships for, let's say, YouTube is like, okay, our friendship was based on making videos. If we stop making videos, is there a friendship left? 9 times out of 10, there's not. It makes it almost like okay for me to understand, like, to look at people and say, what is our friendship based on? You know, once I realized that, it became easier. I almost became closer with all my YouTube friends because now I didn't have this expectation of like, you got my back. It was just like, hey, we make videos together and we have a fucking blast. So then I go through my journey, right? And I tear my Achilles and I'm sitting in the shower one day because I can't stand up. And I'm fucking crying, dude. I'm crying my eyes out.
Why are you crying?
Because I just hated. I'm such a like person, and I couldn't leave my house. I couldn't film videos. None of my friends are calling me. I'm like, this fucking sucks. And I told myself, I was like, I have a choice to make. I'm like, this is gonna either be the worst thing that ever happened to me or the best thing that ever happened to me. It's all on me. I walk out the shower. I start studying YouTube, learning things. I start those Zoom calls with other YouTube friends I have. Mr. Beast jumps in. I try the Mr. Beast style videos. I try doing game shows. I tried doing hide and seek for the longest type videos. I stumbled upon One Fluent. We started making the CamBoys channel. I start to realize, wait, stop making the stuff you think people want to see. Why don't you make the stuff that you like to watch? I was a big fan of like Destroying, Beta Squad, Yes Theory. Those are the videos I watch. And I'm like, why don't I make that?
Well, I want to see, yeah.
I would sit down and watch. And then my new rule became, would I play this video in a theater with all my family and friends and be proud of it? Because a lot of times people would ask me, what's your channel? And I'd be like, you don't want to, and it's like a hide and seek. If you have a kid, maybe. And I hated that. I want to be proud of what I'm making. So my new test became the theater test. And so slowly but surely, as I'm learning, studying, figuring out what works, doesn't work, I stumble upon this Guess the Black Person video from Beta Squad. And now we're almost caught up, right? And I'm like, yo, this is fucking amazing. Surely there's an American version of this. There isn't. I'm like, this is crazy. This is fucking hilarious. And I'm like, dude, we should do Guess the Black Person American version, you know? So we do that video. And I was like, well, I got to have black people on the panel. I can't have, I can't have like JC, like, my regular friends. And so I reached out to my friend Denny, who's a comic who I'd known for years. And I'm like, then I reached out to Patso, who's my South African friend who I used to live with, who was there when I started my YouTube channel, made my first vision board. And then Denny had a friend named Herm, who was a stand-up comic. He came on. And then I had a friend, Christian Pierce, who I had met at the gym, who I used to watch on YouTube.
Which, that's an old, for people who had watched Jimmy Tatro.
Yes.
That is an OG,
dude,
OG YouTuber.
I have a picture of me meeting him as a fan, from years ago, and now he works with me. And I'm like, see if they're free that day, and we just sit down, we do this panel thing, and it felt like something like unlocked in me. I had so much fun. People are like laughing like crazy. I was like, whatever this is, I want to keep doing it. So I'm like, okay, what else have people done? Oh, guess the police officer, guess a celebrity. I'm like running through all the guesses. And then I'm like, wait, let's just take it further. Like, why don't we need to have a title and thumbnail that's like crazy. That's going to catch your attention. And now my YouTube, the last 6 months of studying and learning is kicking in. The thumbnails, the ideas, the hooks. And now we're like, fuck it. Let's just start doing like, guess the black body count. See how many black people girls have slept with. Like that's like I remember we would sit in a circle, me and my producer Zane, and just blur out crazy ideas. We were having so much fun, and we're just like coming up with new ideas. And next thing you know, I was like, I think we could do this for a long time.
Yeah.
So we started branding it. We started removing like stuff off the table. Danny and Herm were so fun. I'm like
Tightening it too. It's like you put out idea, like as a YouTuber, I think you put out ideas all the time. There's tests constantly. Then when something hits, it's like, okay, now let's hone.
Yeah. And it didn't hit for a while, right? I mean, Guess a Black Person has 2 million views. It had like 20,000 views the first few months.
Wow.
And I was posting TikToks of all my videos, and they all were getting 1,000, 2,000 views. And then TikTok number 28 did 18 million views in 24 hours.
Whoa.
And what I was hoping would happen was, I was like, we don't want the first one to pop. We want the 5th, 6th, 10th one to pop, because it's the same show, just different guests.
You'll have catalog.
If one pops off, people will binge. 28th popped off. All the TikToks I had 2,000 views, all went to the millions.
Wow.
Next thing you know, there was a community around this idea now. And then a few months later, another pop. This time, catalog is bigger.
Wow.
And it just kept steamrolling from there. And then the CamBoy channel kind of fell apart. People were all doing different things. It wasn't working. So we kind of like closed that off, ended the group. What I think the way to do it is you find everything's already been done. So, but if you can find something and improve it slightly, that's the thing. Like Beta Squad doesn't really do these videos. They do a multitude of things. This is one of their series. Cut and Jubilee do a version of this. So I just took these 2 ideas, added like a funny ass recurring panel, and that's all I do. Like I don't have like a group channel where we do group videos. Like I just have the same.
And honestly,
show.
It makes it easier for people to know you.
Yeah.
Right? If like Jimmy Kimmel did a bunch of different things and like the Late Show was one of the things he did, he might not be Jimmy Kimmel. But because he's known as the Late Show person, that's why people know. And
I've always wanted my own show. That's always been the goal from the jump, is to have like my own TV show. I just never thought, I kind of just fell into it. And now it's like the Kevin Langue Show. It pushes me. Now it's my name on there. So if the shit sucks, it's on me. And so it almost made me feel good, because I'm like, the pressure's off everybody else. I'm putting my time, my money, my creative brain into this, putting the people in it, and I'm going to ride or die by the Kevin Langue Show. And like I've said, if I'm betting on myself, I'm doubling down every time.
So now we're kind of caught up to present. You're doing hundreds of millions of views. We talk about this 10-year plan.
Oh, yeah.
Like, what's this 10-year plan look like now? Because the thing that you were filtering everything through.
Yeah.
I want to hit 1 million subscribers. Hit that in April.
Yeah.
The goal, the last like maybe 10-year goal, hit. And so now it's like,
I know.
What does the future look like now? It's a scary thing to actually hit that goal, because it's like, what next?
No, it was, because I remember I was outside. It's like 7 a.m. I'm on FaceTime with my mom and my sister. My fiance's filming. I'm holding my laptop. We're watching the thing scroll. Hits 1 million subscribers. My mom is crying. You know, my sister's so happy. Eileen, my fiance, is like so happy. I was filming that day, so I didn't have time to even take it all in. You know, I shut the laptop. I run to set. Eileen has organized all this stuff, like 1 million subscriber napkins, bottles. Everyone on set is hype, excited. We film all day, 11 hours. I come home. I'm so tired. I go right to bed. I wake up the next day, and now I have a moment. And I'm pacing around the backyard. And I'm just like thinking, what now? You know, I put, and maybe this is a lesson for anyone watching, but like, I put so much of my life into getting 1 million subscribers that I never even thought to ask myself, what am I going to do when I hit it? You know, I just thought like everything is about the million, but I never thought like, I didn't even think to myself, like, I'm going to take a vacation or I'm going to buy myself a fucking something. And so now here I am, and I'm like, what now, you know? And so I had two major things I was battling. One, what's next? And two, is YouTube still serving as a stepping stone for me to go into entertainment, to start making movies and TV shows? Because that's what it started out to be as a first. I'm like, I'm going to go make my videos so I can build a community and get my stories and stuff out faster, and then use that as leverage to go back into the industry. So those are the two mental battles I was battling. The first one of going back into the industry was solved in about 4 days, where I realized, like, you know what? More and more people are watching YouTube. It gives me the freedom to do what I do. And for a lot of things in my life, I don't ask myself like, oh, do I want to be a singer? Do I want to be an actor? I try to ask myself, do I want those problems? Like, do I want to audition 5 times a week, go through shitty agents, film a short film in Wyoming, make no money? You know, like, do I want to go through all that bullshit? Because it's easy to sit here and be like,
because that's the process.
That's the process. And so I try to really ask myself, do I want those problems? And I didn't, not anymore. So I took that and I put it on the shelf with being a pilot and an NBA player. And the second thing was, okay, then if I'm doing this, what now? And I realized that my favorite thing for the past however long, especially the past year and a half, was waking up chasing the million. It was sitting around with producer Zane and thinking of ideas and hooks and titles and thumbnails and who can we bring on a panel, like DMing Drewski, like, would you want to come on the show? Like, you know, that was the fun part. So I set 3 new goals. The first goal was 300 million subscribers.
Why 300 million?
Because no one has 300 million. And also because Mr. Beast, Jimmy, has 250 or something. And I kept thinking, I love Jimmy. I love Mr. Beast. He's amazing. But he's the epitome of, like, I would say, an average person. Right?
Yeah.
In the nicest way possible. And so am I. So if he can get to 250, then me being, I'd like to say, entertaining, funny, with a crazy backstory, with everything I've been through, what the fuck is my excuse?
Yeah.
You know, like, if he can do it, I think anybody else can do it. And if I'm bent on myself, you know where I'm going with this.
Double down.
So I set 300 million. And then I set the next goal was to have the #1 show in the world.
What does that mean?
That means in every language around the world, you know about the Kevin Langue Show. Whether you're in Europe, Asia, South America, you've heard of the Kevin Langue Show.
Yeah.
So, but we don't even know what that is. We're still kind of figuring that out because dubbing just became a thing recently. So I'm trying to set these goals that, as you can see, that don't even exist. And that's the idea. The idea is like, I'm going to be chasing this for a long time. I'm going to have a lot of fun. The last goal was selling out a stadium.
Yeah. Which
the only comic to ever do that was Kevin Hart in Philly. Other than that, it's like, you know, artists, Beyonce, Taylor Swift, One Direction, but by a YouTuber, that's never been even come close to.
Wow.
So those are my 3 goals. They're very,
very ambitious,
unattainable.
Yeah.
But
that's kind of the point.
When I set out to do 1 million subscribers, it felt unattainable. So that's what I'm working towards. And that's why I say it's a 10-year plan. And I've broken down each goal into how I'm hoping to get there. But you're not going to get that information out of me today.
So looking back on everything that you've been through, looking back on maybe like some of those early days when you were just starting out on Vine, maybe even making videos in high school for chemistry, what advice would you give to the person that is interested in YouTube and making videos and like streaming and all these things that you were initially interested in as a kid? Like, what advice would you give that person on actually kind of chasing it with any degree of success?
That's a tough one. I feel like I'm always the worst person to ask that question to, because I'm such a hardball where I'm always like, if you're not willing to do it for 10 years and make no money, then I would say don't do it. You know, like it's hard, man. It's a hard business. The the hardest part is you self-identify a lot in this business. Like you start to, the likes, the comments, they start to feel like they're about you. And so you can lose yourself in all of it. Like, don't get caught up in the highs or the lows. That's how you get fucking fucked. Like, you just keep doing what you're doing. Whatever the thing you set out to do, you just do that. Because on Monday, they'll love you. On Tuesday, they'll fucking hate you. You just got to stay true to who you are. And remember that, like, this internet shit that's all it is. It's internet shit. Like, make sure the people in your life around you are the true reflection of who you are. Like, make sure you always remember, like, your parents, your siblings, your friends around you, like bonfires, dinners, deep conversations like these. Like, remember that, like, those carry more weight than how your fucking video or tweet did this week. I guess, I don't know if this is any advice, but
no, it's good advice. I mean,
honestly, you know what my advice is? Don't take fucking advice from people. You know, listen, whatever the fuck you want to do, go do that shit. Because no one knows you. At the end of the day, people's advice, that's all that is theirs. But, like, no one has ever been in your position today about to do the thing you're about to do. And everyone's advice on what you should do is based on their perception of what they would do if they were in your shoes.
But they're not.
Based on how much they know you. But they're not in your shoes, and they don't know you as well as you know you. So the best person to make this decision and give you advice is you.
So maybe always double down on yourself.
I say ask everyone who loves you what they think, and then sit in the room and think about what you want to do. And if you're going to bet on yourself, double down.
Thank you so much for listening. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe, rate the podcast 5 stars, and share with a friend. If you have any questions or comments, DM us at Finding Founders Podcast on Instagram, LinkedIn, or Facebook. Finding Founders is produced and hosted by me, Samuel Donner.
Our audio editing team lead is Ashley Jimenez, with support from
Jessica Morales, Miley Lipton,
Siyu Pan,
Kenny Wright,
Josie Yo,
Matt Fernandez,
and Merritt Hill. Our outreach and research team lead is Desiree Nunez, with support from Marissa Granados, Monica Lee,
Sarah Tiersma,
and Yao Liu.
To see more of what we're up to, subscribe to our newsletter at findingfounders.co. Thanks again for listening, and see you next week.